Welcome.
Nobody was standing out. Nobody was doing anything really different. They're just doing what's been done. You look at what's the old legacy technology out there. It's mutual funds. I mean, this stuff's, 100 years old almost. In some cases, not quite that old. I think first mutual fund was in the 20s. And it's getting to be about 100 years old. 80 years old. This is old way of distributing ideas and methodology. And, these things are their history. And it's like Apollo was saying, he was a market maker working for his dad. He made $600,000 a year. The next year, after they went through decimalization and they took away the eights and took away the juice from the market makers, he made $20,000, and he had to leave the business because there's no money in it anymore. And it's the same thing going to happen now. Is every time that these big shifts happen, fractional trading, zero cost, all that stuff, it eliminates the most inefficient parts of the markets get eliminated. And it takes somewhere between 1 and 3 years. And that's old school. Now what used to take 1 and 3 years is probably 6 months to a year and change. Everything's accelerated at the rate of which change occurs, right? We all know that. And you see it all the time. I mean, literally 2 months ago, you weren't thinking about there would be no ticket fees. You weren't thinking about incremental shares. Everything kind of happens very quickly now. And it's just Charles Schwab proved that. We go to zero. Everybody else within 24 hours had went to zero because they had to. And, the stock, like in TD stock, dropped almost 30%. You have to embrace what the change is. And the change is new technology, which is the ability, of course, this is where the product sales comes in, right? The ability which to build dynamic personal funds, run large groups of stocks in a dynamic environment and build your own fund brand with no internal cost. I mean, that's fucking huge. And being able to deliver it to anybody because you can do fractional shares. For me, that's what we're selling. We're selling a new strategy for the new world. We're not selling an old strategy for the old world. This stuff is the mutual funds. And like I said, ETFs 3 years from now will look very expensive with 25 and 50 basis points built in. They're going to be very expensive. If I can I was just telling Jay, like I was telling about this ESG portfolio I found. It's, how many? 546 active symbols being traded. And I'm like, holy shit. And they're delivering it through a mutual fund mechanism. Well, we can actually deliver, something like that in a dynamic strategy that will protect the assets. We can build it in all kinds of ways, but just say a classic adaptive type strategy where it will go to cash and do protection strategies and all that stuff. And instead of having a 1.25% internal cost of business, it's zero because we don't get charged any ticket fees. So now what happens is these advisors use mutual funds, the ESGs, all that, and they have, let's just make it 1% to make it easy. They have a 1% internal cost on the mutual fund. So for the advisor to get paid, he's putting an additional fee on top of that at 0.75 or 1% himself. So it's doubling the fees. Now you can just add your fee and there is no internal fee. So you've literally dropped the cost to your customers 30 to 50% or more, depending on what you're doing. That's one of the impacts of being able to actually build something. And the key is, like I said, you got to be able to build it, which we can do, but you also have to be able to deliver it through an automated order system that will allow you to get orders seamlessly and painlessly from these advisors. That all they have to click is an agree button or an OK button, and it's done to every one of the accounts that they set up for that particular strategy. What I think will happen is the world of individual stocks will come back up. The volume on the New York Stock Exchange is probably quadruple in the next 3 or 4 years or less. As soon as incremental shares get out, more and more people come to the party, And, it's just going to be explosive as far as volume goes, as far as liquidity, accessibility. This is what Schwab was talking about at their conference. We're making it the markets available to anybody, not somebody. And that's a big difference in what's going on today versus yesterday. And if you can automate this, so now if you're an advisor, right now they're all, well, our minimum account is, and for years you want to have a minimum account, 1 million, 5 million, whatever you want to be a big dog. Well, now it doesn't matter. You can take anyone because it's seamless to deal with them. And then ultimately, when we get the Advise platform, you'll be able to communicate to them all and you back in a very sophisticated delivery where there's, literally numbers that identify who and what they are, even satisfaction, knowing how they navigate, how they learn, what they use, everything about them. I mean, it's not going to be about individual advisor interaction like you and me talking and I'm holding your hand. It'll be much more sophisticated, and there won't be any people in the middle. There won't be a man in the middle to make this stuff happen. And that's where the world will go very quickly. And like I've said before, only the high-end consultants, like the guys that make a shit ton of money, I don't know what the number is, let's say make 2 million, 3, 5 million a year, they're going to hire high-end consultants to handle their money. But everybody else is not going to. They're going to be on some kind of platform that will automate the interaction and do all this stuff.